Yeah, I'm trying to be like really deliberate about it
That's
now.
very good. In that case,
And
from Ybor City at 1714 7th Avenue, the home of Chillum CBD Dispensary, it's time to jump into the rotation. Now you got to cue the music.
Oh. He asked if there was anything else he needed to do.
Marijuana in my soul, marijuana in my heart.
Once again, you managed to mess my flow.
You have every time, though. Every time.
That's right.
It's not even hard to do. It's just we start the show.
Well, my flow is gone, and now I got to go get medicated. But anyways,
you're not medicated already.
I have to have a reason, right? Like morning. Okay, anyways, this is Gary Stein, your political director for Sun Coast Normal, here with my co-host and overall great guy in the atheist world, Carlos Angel Herrera.
That's right, my name is Carlos. I have a long Cuban name, and I don't believe in God.
There you go. And from just above the Beltway, close enough to smell the insurrection, it's Cristino, our director, and of course, to my far right and on your left on the screen, we have the guy who started the whole legalization movement in Florida for adult use, Mike Minardi. Esquire.
Zoom in on it a little bit, you know? Like,
I don't know about that, but yeah.
That's as close as we're going to get. But yeah, hi, Mike.
Hey, man, how you doing? Great being here.
What's up?
The rotation, that's what's up.
There we go. So, is that it, Gary?
Well, I just so that you want me to go ahead and go on from there?
Let's go.
No problem. So, Mike, what you doing lately?
Well, not much. It's been slow these days,
I doubt that.
Thank God.
I doubt that. I mean, last time I saw you, you were actually in Tallahassee on a certain February day where you were actually talking in front of the Supreme Court.
I was. That's amazing. That was a long time ago, and it seems like forever it took them to get a decision for that opinion, but we got it, and as soon as we did, we started working on the next one, and we decided to go for the people and the patients in home cultivation and say, you know what, let the businesses take care of themselves in many ways. So it's for the people.
Obviously, you had to make some changes in it because they didn't quite understand exactly what you were talking about. I'm still bewildered as to how they actually came to the conclusions that they did. Our new Supreme Court does a lot of mental gymnastics to get where they want to go. I think they're starting with the result first and working backwards.
I would think we agree with that, and we think that's why potentially they took so long to get it done. I mean, it took over a year. We were the first one to go to the Supreme Court review and have a hearing, and we were the last one out of those 3 marijuana issues that got a decision on it. So, but we're pretty confident in this amendment. We streamlined it so it was only one subject. The ballot title and summary pretty much has everything in the amendment that's in it. So we're excited about it. We think we're going to be able to get this done and take it to them.
Well, I know that Kennedy and those folks really had their panties in a bunch about the word limited.
Yes.
And so did you explain what limited is this time, even though you explained it last time?
You know what? We got rid of the word limited. So there is no limits besides the amount of plants you can grow on which you can do with your cannabis. So that's fine. We can deal with that. They're right. We wanted to legalize it. We wanted it to be free for adults. And that's why this is the Free the Plant petition, because that's what it does.
Okay, so that's the official name of it now.
Yeah, we're calling it Free the Plant.
I like it.
Yeah.
It actually flows more than just regulate cannabis like alcohol.
And it's not like alcohol, man. This is way better. It's a plant. It grows from the ground.
So much better.
Way better. So we're done with regulate marijuana like alcohol. We want to free the plant.
Why? So I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying, and I just out of curiosity, why was it regulate Florida's issue? It was the first one to go in and the last one to come out. Why? Was it really it was I'm not gonna lie to you, it was a long amendment, but it couldn't have influenced their decision in that way. Why do you think that would?
Yeah, I talked to Billy Bolster a couple of times. I asked him, why is it so long? Yep. He says, because we have to cover everything.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, we tried to, I feel like, hit a home run on that one. We wanted to change our entire vertical integration market. We wanted to make sure that it was actually for Floridians only with residency requirements. We wanted to protect people's rights in the workplace. I think the only thing we didn't have in that amendment was expungements.
When
So
you first got started with Regulate Florida, we didn't even have the vertical market yet, did we?
yeah, we did.
Was it already at past SB 1030?
No, but low THC was. So we were going with that market, and I mean, as you know, being involved back then, you always kind of felt that was planning to do. That's why those entities got involved, because they knew medical marijuana was coming, and that's why they got in the industry. So I mean, we always kind of believed that system was where the legislature was going, and that's why we tried to make sure that we clearly created a horizontal market in that last amendment. But we didn't, honestly, we didn't have any support for any of the applicants really that were applying. All the people that were in the lawsuits that were trying to challenge the horizontal versus vertical integration system. And if anyone that wanted sort of, a potential more of a guarantee than going through the courts, they really should have been contributing to us, and they didn't. And then we talked about, the MILF petition, right? So MILF, allegedly, they only went with what they did was because of the single subject issue.
Right.
So in our position, we're like, well, we can go back and create a market for sales and regulated adult use in the amendment like that, and potentially risk a single subject issue that hasn't been addressed by the court, or go with one issue, give it to the patients, give it to the people, and allow them to cultivate and legalize it across the board for adults 21 plus, and that's what we decided to do.
It's still beyond me is why they still went with the single subject rule, and yet when the Constitutional Revision Committee came out with several different ballot initiatives, each one of them were dual topics.
Well, they have different parameters than we do.
They absolutely did. Because
So
they put fracking together with vaping, which
right.
makes a lot of sense if you think about it, all gas, right?
Yeah, it's no real comparison, and that's why I think they're trying to push to get rid of the revision commission on this year's ballot, 2022, right?
Yeah. So you started in 2014 with Regulate.
I think it was 2016. Yeah, it was before the second amendment came through.
Okay.
Not the first one. We were all full on board with medical. We were all petitioning for medical at that point in time.
So from 2016 up until 2019, when you finally turned in that 87,000 petitions, that was a long time to get just that amount.
And that was a grassroots effort. That was people, and it was like Kim Russell when she started. They had like 20,000 petitions in the first year. Then Morgan came on and put in money. Yeah, Puff'em, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we were all there, right? We were all collecting signatures from them back in the day.
I was collecting Puff'em signatures in 2009.
Yep. I mean, I remember when Kim first started that, and it was the greatest thing that happened for Florida. And it was great when Morgan got involved. But the great thing is we have money. We have True Leaf on board at this point. We're in all their 105 stores now, I guess, with the acquisition of Harvest. Hope Rise is coming on board. We should be in all their stores. So it's a totally different climate. And I think in general, the cannabis community and the patients are kind of pissed about this system and what's going on and the limitations. I don't really know many other states that have caregivers that can't cultivate.
I can see why the MMTC would want to get involved. And Green Thumb Industries, which is Rise, that they're a great multi-state organization, and they've done some good things, including putting in social equity programs and things of that sort in the various places they are. So hopefully they will help you out. But obviously, you couldn't do it the way you did it before, because you don't have 3 years. You have until February.
Yep, that's correct.
I agree with what you're saying. I think everybody's just kind of ready for it to happen. We're just tired of it not being a reality for Florida.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of things that we're missing out on. Gary here has been trying to fight for reciprocity in the medical system for a while, and
employee protection, which Mike has also helped me work on as well.
Yeah,
as well as Chris, of course, because that's our team.
And it's so obvious the way, if you look at just the way money works with the medical marijuana system in our state,
just politics.
It's just a very expensive license that hasn't been open for a very, very long time, right? With no tax revenue coming into the state. This is a way for the state to actually benefit from marijuana.
I always wondered if the no tax thing was a benefit towards the patients or just a way to slow down the entire program.
Well, as the legislature called it, it's because it's a medicine, so we don't tax medicine, but that's like the only thing that they actually consider it and treat it as a medicine as, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like with the employee issues, that's something we're continuing to work on.
Yeah,
legally.
Other states do tax medical, and some states like Oregon, they tax adult use to the extreme. Was it 48% sales tax and luxury tax over on the West Coast in Oregon?
Well, because then they have the state tax, and then each city and municipality is allowed to tax it as well. It is, and that's what they wonder, why they create a black market. You can still have it when there is that tax revenue and amount. I mean, but you go to Colorado, and they're seemingly a booming green market.
And yet, even though there's no tax revenues coming in, the price of cannabis is so freaking high, and a big part of that is because we can't grow it. There's just like this I'm probably going to use the wrong words here, guys, but there's an oligopoly over the system, right? But there's a definite monopoly over growing, like it's only these few can do it, right? And that's what's keeping the price so high. That's why patients don't really get to benefit from our system. That's because you only really get to benefit from our medical marijuana system when you make enough money to benefit from it, right? And, we need to be able to grow at home, right? And from what we can see from the medical system, right, when the medical system was first starting to go into effect, I really had good faith that we're really going to have an open system, that people are going to be able to get into the system, that people are going to be able to grow because it was written in a very open fashion. But the truth is, the implementation of the medical marijuana system shows that we need to put restrictions on our lawmakers in order to make sure that we have certain rights, right? And it sucks. We have to tell them, no, we need to grow. We need to grow marijuana.
And should have the right. And my biggest fear, honestly, realistically, anybody who wants to grow or have the ability to grow or have a friend be able to grow, is really the fact that if we get to a legalized market without home cultivation, I don't ever see our legislature doing it. And then the ability for us to do a ballot initiative to get it passed, I think becomes even that more complicated, right? Because then what's the incentive to anyone to support it if there's already a legal adult market for sales? So I really think we have a window of opportunity where we have to get this done now, or it's going to be a while, before we can change the state to be able to allow home cultivation. People, I think someone put in the comments about the THC caps and things like that. That's what our legislature continues to try to do.
It seems more like a straw man argument, though.
I agree.
It's there to draw all the air out of the room towards someplace that it's not going to do them any harm as far as not being able to want to do anything.
And guaranteeing there's no progress. And that's another thing we put in our amendment. We wanted to make sure that we kibosh that issue with regards to adult use. So we did put in there a restriction that the legislature could not limit the THC percentage.
Yeah, I saw that. That's freaking really cool.
Yeah. I was just stunned when Illinois first came out with the first legislative adult use bill, and actually got Pritzker to go ahead and sign it. Although, to be honest with you, a lot of the parts of it are still under litigation, and they can't give out a lot of licenses because there's a confusion as to what social equity is and who should be allowed to get it and who should not, whether a person actually has to live in Illinois or not live in Illinois. So they're having their own issues, even though they thought they had a path. We have other people who have had ballot initiatives like South Dakota and Mississippi who got actually kiboshed by their own legislature after the people even voted for it.
Yep.
So we actually have to work on two fronts, don't we? We really have to work on the street to get this ballot initiative in, and then we have to get the legislature to back off and let the people's will be done.
Well, and that becomes my second goal, as to what I'm doing these days, and that's why I want to be in the legislature for when they are working on implementation, that I am representing someone in the interest of the people and the patients of Florida. That's goal number 2, and that's why I'm running for House of Representatives. This has always been my issue.
How much time are we into the show?
14.
Oh, good. I win the lottery. I thought you were going to hit that around 12 minutes. So I think I'm closest, so I win that lottery.
Yeah.
You cannot stop a politician from campaigning You can tie them to a bed. You can throw them out of the river. They'll still continue to campaign.
We have to. It's what we're told. It's our goal, and it's the only way to get things done, right? And that's why we need everyone to download, sign the petition, come into Carlos's store. You can sign it.
Yeah, you can come and chill them to sign the petition. I gotta say, I'm happy you're running in because I remember when we were getting medical petitions signed that you were saying that you want to be president. So this is the first step, isn't it?
It is.
It is. So all the way, Minardi for president.
Well, that's why my website's Minardi for Florida. Let's start one at a time.
.com.
I'm gonna get ahead
Not
of things.
yet.
I'm gonna get ahead of things, and I'm just gonna start aiming for you.
I asked a couple people what kind of questions they want me to ask you today. And one of the questions that came up time and time again was, why GOP?
Why GOP? Because it's the right way to go. I'm from New Hampshire, so we have a very diverse population up there. I grew up with the NRA in our face all the time. I'm a supporter of hunting and gun rights and things of that nature. And our GOP in Florida is against the cannabis issue. I don't really understand why. Honestly, it's mostly based on antiquated lies and reefer madness stuff that it just has to end. And I don't understand how that deals with my privacy rights as far as that goes. But I believe anybody can pull themselves up from their bootstraps and make anything of themselves. All they have to do is work their ass off for it. And I think that's in line with our party's.
I've always had an issue with that statement about pulling up with your own bootstraps, because for those people who know, the bootstraps are those things on the sides of the boots you use to pull the boot onto your foot, and you cannot pull yourself up by your own bootstraps because your boots on the ground and the straps are at the top, so you actually have to lift yourself up into the air.
Well, I like that, and you know what? Some of us have never seen bootstraps before. So.
Back in the day, they used to call me Bootstrap Carlos.
I didn't know that. Which day was that? Thursday?
But the most important thing, honestly, is stopping the arrest and persecution of people for this plant and possessing it and using it, and that's really the most important thing out of everything we're doing here.
I like that it's come down to that, because let's at its core right now, we got 4 people on the screen that are longtime normal guys. You know what I mean?
That's why I wore the hat today.
Gary's got Normal Florida. Myself and Kano, longtime supporters of Normal Florida, and longtime guys for Central and Central Normal. All this normal stuff happening. Of course, Mike with Normal of Florida. We're long, and that's what normal is at its core. It's a right here. We as marijuana users shouldn't be thrown in jail for it. That's as simple as it gets.
Yeah, but we have had, even since 2014,
so much, we don't have to complicate it. It's just gotta be just that. People who smoke weed, we're not hurting anybody. As a matter of fact, maybe we're even helping ourselves out. And I'm done with my rant, and I'm sorry for cutting you off, Gary.
Oh, that's no problem. I mean, but Chris even mentioned that he was working with Buffin back in 2009. It was many, many years before we even got to the low THC bill back in 2013, the Compassion Act. And then we got to the right to try, and then we finally got, after the ballot initiative, the SB 8A, which gave us all the information that we had to go ahead and have a full medical market as we have here. But it's been a long, long time coming, but we still are dealing with the problems that were set in place back in 2015, 16, and 17, and we still got legislative gridlock. So if you get elected and put into office, what are you going to do to get rid of that gridlock?
Well, everything we can. I'm for an open market. I believe diversity of modality and products and innovation of products is greater. Competition is obviously better for the people of Florida. So we're going to do whatever we can to continue to push that envelope. And even getting legal adult sales passed would be step number 1.
I just want to point out that's the first time I heard a Republican running in Florida saying he's for an open market cannabis. That's what
With the exception of Jeff Brandes.
The
official Libertarian Party in Florida.
It's but it has to be done, and I think the entities know it. I can't wait. We have 19 potential applications coming out allegedly any day now. This new procedure is going to come out, so hopefully it happens. That'll double it. So 23 now we have 22 to 40 something. At least we're kind of getting up there, even though it's going to take them another 2 years to get on board and actually start selling flower. Hopefully the legislature, if there is something in there, there'll be some sort of limitations on, whether or not they can or can't sell it in a period of time,
Right.
so that they're actually, those entities don't sit around for years before they actually start producing product for the patients. Things like that we really need to help push as well as this market moves forward.
I mean, if you remember back in 2017, the one thing that they couldn't get passed during regular session, which forced them to actually get it done in a special session, was on the number of dispensaries that any particular license could have.
Yep.
They wanted it capped at 25, and of course it would sunset in a couple of years. And now 25 is pretty much the minimum that anybody can really have. And after the acquisition and absorption of Harvest, Trulieve now has 106 dispensaries.
Yep.
Wow. And over 50% of the market share, and in flower, about 48% of the market share of everything
I
else.
would just love to have 106 children. That'd be so cool.
But you're
Just 10.
working on number 2,
That
though.
would be great.
Right.
Organic growth is best. Don't you believe that?
I do.
You
I
know,
do.
I guess so.
And the sad thing is it really left out all the mom and pops, all the people that have cared about this plant, who've dreamed about getting involved in this market for so long. That it just never had the ability to do it, especially all the chefs that want to cook, foods for people and things of that nature. And
All
that's
the
really
people that want to
we're
grow.
gonna say.
Let's go back to growing.
I don't know if you heard, if you watched the
Yeah.
Senate Ag Committee a couple of weeks ago, but the Rusan had brought up Ferguson to ask him why the Bigford license had yet to have a process even developed yet. And he hemmed and hawed and said, "Don't worry, we're getting it done swiftly and quickly, and we're getting ready to start the initiation process of getting to begin."
Yep.
Essentially.
And realistically, I don't, what are they really doing? And as far as changing the prior application, and the question being, why necessarily are they? And then what are they doing to it? And why is it taking so long? They're not putting anything out for public comment or anything of that nature. So they're doing it seemingly behind closed doors, and hopefully they're doing it, honestly.
Well, they still keep talking about the fact that flora grown was the reason why they couldn't even give out the Bigford license, and yet the Bigford license was mandated before the decision on flora grown even came down. So did it really have any effect, since flora grown was actually trying to get rid of the vertical mandate, not necessarily get rid of verticals?
Right. Well, and the interesting thing is I don't really see anything that necessarily prevented them from issuing licenses since 2017. So they've just decided not to.
That whole thing is just like an onion, like layers of racism. Like it's like a
Yeah.
racist reason not to be able to participate in racist tokenism.
Well, do you see a path, Mike, to social equity programs in Florida?
No. I can't imagine it. I'd love to believe that it's going to happen. Our social equity problems are what they probably had in the prior applications. Like, you have to have a diversity component. You have to say you're going to hire, diverse, either minority businesses or veteran businesses or things. That's the way. It's a part of the application. But I don't realistically see it in the near future. It's impossible for really anybody, unless you're a multimillionaire, to get involved in this industry right now. These 19 applications, you're not getting in,
Multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Well,
for under $2 million.
let's be certain. Even the nurseries that applied back in 2015, 2016, they weren't the millionaires that had enough money to actually start a full cultivation and processing plant. They had to bring in money from someplace else.
Yep.
And therein lies the rub. They created a situation where not only did they cut out the minorities with the 30-year rule and the 400,000 plants, but they created an incentive for out-of-state money to come in and start actually taking over the business, which is essentially what has happened.
That is what happened. And that's why realistically, this home cultivation, and that's why we chose on that, because it's for the people and the patients. You can cultivate at home, you can do what you want. You don't really have to care about that market anymore, because you have that choice to be able to do it. And that's really what we think is the great equalizer of the market and of everything. And that's why we went with home cultivation, and the businesses and the legislature will deal with that issue.
You know, Mike, Gary, what you guys just said there has made me see things so clearly. You know,
Oh, yeah, so
Through the purple
so
haze.
the RSO kicked in then.
the RSO kicked in about 15 minutes ago, but
And you're just realizing it now.
the combination of the kicking in 15 minutes
Oh.
ago and what you guys have just said has pointed out that it's time for Gary's moment of clarity. Cool, right?
Yeah.
That is so much better than that G-spot nonsense.
Yeah, so like, you want to see
And
the
I promise I
G-spot
was-
guys? You want to see the G-spot stuff?
That's awesome.
You know, it's kind of like that bad piece of fish. It will come back to you, you know?
I've never really seen that video. I'm sorry, Gary. I'm sorry.
You know, Lyndon Johnson once said that bad bills are like a dead cat on your porch. The longer that it sits there, the more it stinks. G-spot was kind of that way. Would somebody mind taking the dead cat off the porch? That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I'd been on a show on G-Spot before. It was a different one over in Palm Beach. But it was much more related to the actual name.
Oh, okay. It was when that erotica Cam and tattoo show with it.
I don't understand the actual name. It's G-Spot because Gary starts with G.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the spot of the show
Just the
where
spot.
Gary reports the news.
Well,
I don't
G
understand
digress.
what you guys are
G-
talking about.
G actually
There's something
stands for-
bad about that.
G actually stands for government, okay?
Oh.
And
You did?
there you go. And G stands for greed because we're always dealing with that on a regular basis. And that is what we're dealing with, what I mentioned before. The MSOs have pretty much taken over the market here. Now, there was an article in MJ Biz magazine this last week about the MSOs sweeping in to try to take over Truliev's spot because look at a market with as many people as we have, almost 700,000 patients, without even having adult use. And 130 million tourists that come into every year that are blocked out of the business right now. And that obviously makes a lot of companies salivate of being there when the trigger gets pulled and the tourists are actually able to start buying in Florida, either through a reciprocity bill or if we actually have adult use.
Well, that's what's great about having the government as a Republican on the show today is that typically, Canada's very liberal, of course. There's no question about it. And, Gary, people are confused about that. Gary's an independent, and I want to point that out.
Thank you.
But I do tend to think that you're going towards the liberal side of things. And I like to see capitalism coming in. And even though mom and pops aren't the ones coming up, I'd like to see the mom and pops coming up and competing here in Florida. But, it's good to see other guys, coming in and wanting to take out Trulieve. I mean, no offense, I know Trulieve has been everything regulated and everything.
Yeah.
But maybe I've gone too far there. But
Well, capitalism is kind of like the old Gremlins movie. If you feed a gizmo at night, it's going to grow into something that may be too large to be able to control.
And honestly, I don't think Trulieve has ever been in fear of competition. That's why they did
I don't
also support regulate before when they knew it would open it up a horizontal market. But it is what it is, and they all have to understand that competition's coming. The other states that they're in are competitive. It's not like they're only, like MedMen's model is find out only competitive states and only go to there that had a limited model. But that's neither here or there. This is about in the business aspect of it. We love everyone's support. You can go there and get petitions. They will obviously, regardless of what happens when adult use passes, they're gonna make a buttload. They'll be printing green. And growing it.
I mean,
So
if you think about it,
I'm not worried about these companies making money.
700,000 patients alone, and we're the third largest market in the entire country, and we don't have an adult use market.
Yep.
And those people who don't have a medical card can't buy, and those people from out of states can't buy, at least not legally.
Yep.
And that is where we stand, and that is where we might just be until we get either adult use here in Florida, or if the federal government moves forward. Now, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but Booker and gang, they did a little work in talking to Merrick Garland this last week, didn't they?
So we're seeing a lot of movement at the federal level right now. The MORE Act came out of the Judiciary Committee again for the second time in history. And then you have the Cannabis Opportunity and Administration Act, which is the Booker-Schumer bill in the Senate. Right now we're asking folks to reach out to their senators, to reach out to their representatives, and ask them to move these bills forward. If we could get something done by the end of the year, get it signed into law, I mean, essentially we could end cannabis being on the Controlled Substances Act, which will essentially leave it up to the states of whether or not they want to leave it on their Controlled Substances Act. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays here in Florida, because you have a lot of people in the government that will use that as a crutch. A lot of elected officials will say, "Oh, well, it's federally illegal, so we're not going to create this conflict with federal law," which is interesting because depending on which administration or which party is currently in control of federal administration, you'll see people throwing a middle finger up to the feds. So I think that if we can remove cannabis at a federal level off the Controlled Substances Act, it will give an opportunity to take some of the hypocrisy out of the room. Now, I have a question for Mike. Mike, we live in a hyper-partisan era right now. And you're running in a battleground district, which has previously been held by Democrats, currently held by Republicans, was held by Republicans for a very long time prior to that. And some of your, I read through your website, I looked at some of your reforms. I support many of the things that you're talking about, police reform. In Virginia, one of the big things that they were able to do is make it to where the smell of cannabis is a probable cause for a search. And I can see that that's obviously a policy that you would be down with it as well, both as an attorney and from where you're coming from with your political values. So how do you navigate a primary, in a hyper-partisan nature, in the grand scheme of all this?
Well, I consider myself fiscally conservative and socially liberal as a Republican. And there's a few of us in this state that identify with that.
It's a teeter-totter, but it's fun.
Yeah, that doesn't mean he's libertarian.
Right, exactly. So, and honestly, this country and this world, exactly like we said, is a two-party system. You have to be one of these parties pretty much anywhere in order to get elected, unfortunately. Because I'm not a huge fan of our political system as it is right now and how people get elected. It's all about money and greed and stuff like that, as opposed to policy and caring and community. But I'm going to run my race, and I believe in what I believe in, and there's a lot of people out there, surprisingly, especially in this industry, a lot of the higher ups that I've been meeting throughout the community that actually support exactly the way that we do. They're sick of all the BS. They're sick of government overreaching, and that really becomes it. And I've had great conversations with people, and my position on this is when you're talking about the stereotypes, because this is what it is with seemingly the Republicans. It makes you lazy, you don't care about anything, and you're a loser. And I said, okay, I'm sick of people using crutches. Stop blaming weed for the reason why you're a loser, okay? Or the reason why you don't have a job, especially these days, or the reason why you're not successful. Get off your butt and work your butt off and do it. Cannabis is an excuse. You can use alcohol as an excuse. You can use food as an excuse as to why you don't do things, But the point is, it's just an excuse. And so that's really where I'm trying to, really bridge this gap and just say, stop the nonsense, stop the infighting, and stop it all. I really, I've always tried to bring people together in this community because, to me, petty BS is that it. It's just petty. We have to really figure out how to lift people up and make this a better world for everybody. And I think it's not a combination of just one ideology versus the other. It's really a combination of both that we have to come together and understand. We can work together to make this a better place. And that's what my goal is, and that's what I'm going to work my butt off to do.
Mike,
Go ahead.
Oh, I appreciate that candidness. One of the concerns that I think I have for you in your future success is, let's say you do get elected, many of the shortcomings that we've pointed out today have to do with the administration, here in Florida and the Department of Health. So how do you reconcile Governor DeSantis being the de facto head of Florida's Republican Party, and at the same time, saying he's doing a shitty job at administrating our medical marijuana system.
Yeah, no, it's a difficult task, but it is what it is, and I became what I am because of politics to legalize cannabis. Brandis is there. We have Anthony Sabatini I've spoken to who supports this issue. So, I mean, there's always going to be differences within the party, no matter what side you're on. I mean, look at the Dems. I really had a lot of hope for Joe Biden and cannabis in this administration, and then he fired 5 people because they tested positive, for cannabis from his administration. What is that? That was really disappointing to me. And so I'm just going to work my tush off to do what I have to be able to educate people, because I think education is where it comes in regards to this issue. People have to get past the stereotypes and BS, because that's all it is that's holding us back. Stop the lies and move forward. And who knows? He's got 4 years. Maybe he's going to run for president, and we'll see what happens after that.
I just want to say I got great respect for people that go against their herd. And that's kind of coming up a lot lately for me or whatever. But saying that, and I got respect for you, Mike, saying what you just said. I got respect for Kano for even criticizing the Democrat Party at times when it wasn't standing for what he believed the core responsibility of the party was. So I also want to point out my second thing here is that I think all 4 of us were in the room when DeSantis, we were sitting in DeSantis's conference room at the Capitol, and he snubbed us with his aides. And all of his aides were looking at us pretty scared and wide-eyed, because there were like 10 hotheads in the room trying to talk to DeSantis about marijuana.
Well, you did smell kind of terpy that day.
And well, it was weed. It was But
I told him to just your cologne.
we all 4 of us from the beginning have been standing together. Going to DeSantis, literally going to him, trying to talk to him directly, and getting snubbed and pushed to the side. So we share that frustration.
Now, Chris, you had issues when you were trying to run for office in the Democratic Party with the head of the Democratic Party at that point in time, which was Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who did not share your values in regards to cannabis and was far more attuned to taking money from the alcohol companies and the pharma companies. And I see that as being that possibly Mike, you're going to be facing as well, because I don't know if Bruce is exactly on the same page as you are.
I could point out a couple more examples to be honest with you.
I'm trying to pull up.
I mean, the examples of me bucking the party establishment that built up quite a record over the years. So,
we don't represent the party; we represent the people. And
well said.
I don't think our party necessarily represents the will of the people. We've looked at these votes over and over again, and I mean, great deal of majority of Republicans voted yes on Amendment 2. A great deal of majority of especially libertarian Republicans right now, over 57% support legalization. So we represent our party. We represent the people and not the party.
I'll tell you,
that's
man,
it.
Like we had this news report come out for chilling, where we were basically put up against Grady Jeff, and this news report ran in Lakeland. And the result was a lot of conservative people who were for getting high were coming here to chill them, where we require masks. And it's been a huge issue trying to get these conservative guys to wear their masks coming here to chill them from Lakeland. So, yeah, there's a lot of conservative people in Florida that smoke weed. That's just how it is.
I mean, that's always been a big sticking point for me. That anything having to do with the COVID epidemic should never have been politicized.
Yeah.
When we're talking about a health issue, it has nothing to do with politics. It's everything to do with the health of the voters.
Well, I mean, the same thing with cannabis. I mean, we know that this was realistically never criminalized because it was dangerous. It was criminalized because of politics and because of greed, because of Hearst, because of, never because that, oh my God, this is a dangerous drug killing people. I mean, sugar wouldn't be legal, tobacco wouldn't be legal. Let's get over it and stop the BS and say we're doing this because it's better for us, it's better for society, and we can control everything for people. And that's all of our, situation with the control of cannabis and the legalization of it. I mean, I've never in 20 years as a criminal defense attorney can say, I had a client for weed and I thought he was a loser, he was a nobody, he did nothing. I don't know any. I just don't. And I don't know if you guys do, but I don't know any, potheads that are like total losers. I just don't.
Yeah, a friend of mine who was a defense attorney over in
I know people who smoke weed that are total losers, but they also do a lot of other stuff.
Exactly. It's
Especially
isolated.
There's also alcohol. And,
Yeah.
It's isolated.
A lot of other bad shit out there.
I know a defense attorney in Pinellas who said lawyers never stand in judgment of their clients. That's the judge's jurisdiction.
I would love to hear that because I know a lot of lawyers that do that to clients. I've had attorneys or clients come to me because their attorney would be like, I'm not going to say medical marijuana in court. Before we had medical marijuana and stuff, and I'm like, what the? Are you kidding me?
Show a little video of John Mills at work, for God's sake.
Going back to some old issues we had in the movement, and the fact that you're like the only attorney that's ever argued medical necessity successfully in the state of Florida. Do you think we should all go to medical necessity and say fuck the medical marijuana system?
Well, amazingly, I haven't had any patients arrested for cultivation calling us yet. The only potential issue that we have with the argument of medical necessity under a medical market is the reasonable alternative issue, right? So if you have the ability to use it legally and you don't get a card, does that negate that issue? So you can't prove that you didn't have any reasonable alternative to do it. So it then potentially becomes, say you do have a medical card, but you can't afford it, and you are cultivating at home. Is that then a reasonable necessity? I mean, that would potentially, I think, should be up to a jury to decide and let the jury determine that issue.
I mean, I agree with that. We may need some type of jury precedence because the cost of being a legal patient is out of the grip and out of the reach of so many working class people. Unless you're making 6 figures a year, between renewing your doctor's recommendation twice a year, getting your card, and finding a dispensary that may be within or without your driving distance of your home. There's a lot of factors and a lot of cost involved with it.
Well, one of the few bills that has actually been filed so far this year, all three of them have been from Jeff Brandis, and all three of them have to do with telehealth and doctors. And they do reduce the amount of times you have to go back to the doctor and give you the ability to do telehealth, especially when you're non-ambulatory and sitting at home. It makes a big difference.
The interesting thing to me is, especially if you have one of the enumerated illnesses, right? Like, do people really recover from those? Like, okay, in a year, my cancer is going to be gone, or this or that. Like these are mostly systemic diseases that you're going to have forever. It's not like, so to go back every year is absolutely ridiculous. And we really need the 2.5 gram, per day challenge every 35 days is absolutely a ridiculous, limit on people when you have, 400 milligrams of edibles a day or whatever, 16,000 milligrams of vape.
It's either the RSO has officially kicked in or my brain wheels are turning in the wrong or right direction. But is it possible to get medical necessity written into some sort of bill, like saying somebody, if you're a medical marijuana patient and you make a certain amount of money, you should be able to grow at home?
Beyond the legal precedent, basically. Is there anything codified in the law so far?
There isn't. That would just be allowing people to grow, I guess. The medical necessity defense is, and always has been, it's a common law defense. It's not on the books. knock on wood, I'm amazed the legislature hasn't written it out
I think
yet.
this is one nowhere.
Well, something. We're pretending it's wood.
Plastic. It's plastic.
But no, I'm surprised the legislature hasn't written it out.
Well, since we're here and you're a legal person, let me try to get a couple of legal myths out of the way, because we have people who are constantly doing their own research. God bless them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and they haven't got a degree, but they're more than willing to take a look at things on YouTube which looks intellectual, don't actually know. And they're constantly saying, why aren't we doing, here's number one, why aren't we doing jury nullification in Florida? And has it ever actually happened where we've gotten anything done that way?
Well, I would be held in contempt of court if I tried to argue jury nullification. It is just not legal to argue. So the way that entities do this is realistically, typically, you would have to canvass the courthouse that potential juries are going on with jury nullification information. It technically can't be directed toward a specific case, and I can't mention it. Witnesses can't mention it in court. It's just not permitted in Florida.
So it's time to stop talking about jury nullification as a possible path to anything.
Now, yes and no. I mean, it's educated jurors knowing about jury nullification, which really has to do it.
Yeah.
It can't be a legal argument, but it's just a juror's innate right to be able to do so.
I just want to point out that the reason why Cano's not on the screen anymore is because he's picking his nose. I just want to call him out.
We're taking a hit of
I thought he already picked one out.
There you go. Yeah, and then people are like, what the fuck?
I thought he already took it. Okay. The next one is, especially when it comes to medical mushrooms which are not yet legalized, how far does mens rea go as a defense?
So, great. Same thing with hemp. So two things that I push and where I believe in right now. Number one, we did, it wasn't public, but we did just raise the first ever medical necessity for psilocybin mushrooms in the state of Florida. The state attorney's office was offering 180 days jail, drug offender probation, etc. on the case. We sent the information over. They dropped all the jail time. They dropped the drug offender probation. He ended up taking a plea because of financial purposes with getting the doctors in. But it is something that we will be arguing whenever it's necessary. This was a great fact pattern. The kid,
seriously, that's really cool.
The kid got out of the car and said, I use it for anxiety and depression. I'm like, boom. We know the evidence is on there. It's been there since the 70s, the science for it. So it is. But mens rea, I think, is huge. If you don't have knowledge of the illegal nature of the substance, and the same thing with hemp, I've been promoting on my website.
Listen closely, guys. This is important to know.
It's just hemp. And I posted, I don't know if you guys saw the 660 pounds that the Brevard County Sheriff's Office found in a storage unit.
God bless them.
I post, it's just hemp. You probably had no probable cause to search because how do they know? So unless you tell them, it's marijuana, but I don't know how they can prove if I said, I just bought a pound of sweet hemp flour from Chillum. And
sweet, sticky hemp flour.
Delicious hemp flour, and I'm rolling around in my car and I get pulled over and the cop arrests me. And I say, I don't know, it's hemp. And they test it. And for example, for one, as far as I know, there's only one FDLE in the state that actually tests for percentage of THC. That's it. Otherwise, they have to send it out to an independent lab, which most of these areas don't want to do or pay for. And so
a lot of money for tests.
So there's that issue, exactly.
That's the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, guys.
Sorry, FDLE, correct. So there's that issue on legality of it, and I got a great report back recently from an FDLE, which she specifically says, I cannot exclude hemp or low THC products from this analysis of the test. So we challenging that on a legal basis that they shouldn't be able to have an expert to be able to testify to if they can't say for sure that it is this product and not hemp. So I say it's just hemp. If you get pulled over, I don't care what it is. Shut your mouth, number one. I'm not like the Pop Brothers-in-law swearing, but shut up. Stop talking. Don't give them any evidence. It's hemp in the car. If you smell an odor on her, or officer, it's hemp, and that's it.
Let's just put it like this.
End it.
I've heard rumors.
How do rumors get started?
Events where people set up tables that have illegal substances.
Let's just take this hypothetical thing that happened in Nevada, maybe.
Yeah. Well,
no, that shit's happened in Florida.
Okay.
But it happened in a dream in Florida.
Okay.
So it happened in a dream in Florida. and people would set up like copious amounts of marijuana, even mushrooms, and like LSD, things like that, right? And they would set it up on their table and they would sell it, right? And people would show up and buy tickets to the event and buy these things and do those things at this event. All right, let's just call these events pop-ups.
Okay, pop-ups.
Right. And I've seen cops were in my dreams.
Yeah.
Walking through these events in my dreams.
What were they wearing?
Cop uniform.
Oh.
Right.
Were the cutoffs like Reno 911?
No. They look like cops.
Okay.
Right? They look like Florida cops in my dream in Florida.
Yeah.
Right? So they were subject to Florida law under my dream laws. Right? So these Florida cops in my dream were like just walking through this place where all this shit was happening. Right? And the people running the event were just like, oh yeah, CBD, 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 CBD. Right? And the cops were like, yeah, okay, all right, yeah, we're not here for that. It's like, we came to check your fire extinguisher. Right? And that's it. That's the end of the story. That's the end of my dream. I was woken up from a nasty spill that happened in my kitchen, but that's here nor there.
Thanks to the taser.
Right? But that's what happened in my dream. Right? And that's what these cops were doing. It's happening already, guys, in my dreams.
Well, I mean, we're getting closer and closer to federal legalization, and Chris, you're watching it every day. And my concern is that once we finally get to the point where the cops aren't going to be watching us anymore, and we get federal legalization, the other side of this two-edged sword is that we have corporations out there like Philip Morris Organization, Apria, and Anheuser-Busch, and InBev, who are just salivating to get involved in the cannabis market. And as far as the invisible hand of the market, these guys have the biggest hands. You know about people with corporations with the biggest invisible hands, right?
Yeah.
They have the largest gloves. That's the other part.
I had a conversation with the Marijuana Policy Group a few months ago about that in regards to comments on the MORE Act and things. And exactly, I mean...
The MPP?
MPG.
Okay.
And their big issue is exactly that. I mean, if we do have a full federal legalization, besides what I think realistically is going to happen is a states' rights issue first, at least for a while before they move that shipping across state lines. And that's why it's so important we pass legalization here. I really don't want to be the state of Florida where they pass federal legalization and we're all like, we still can't grow and we still can't use cannabis as adults 21 plus. I mean, I don't want to see that. And that's another reason why we're pushing so hard for 2022 to get this done. But, it's really that ridiculousness that we have with, this whole aspect of, a federal versus state legalization on this. As far as our state legislature, and Chris, mentioned it earlier, hiding behind, well, we have to have this strictly regulated market because it's federally illegal, right? Because that's why they created this vertical market, because they wanted to be within line with, what's his name's, the Cole memo,
yes.
Years ago, which it wasn't at all, because technically the Cole memo said they didn't want to see large, huge businesses, which we created.
And it was just basically guidelines that people saw as law.
So,
or basis for law.
The MPG conversation was exactly that, and we don't have it in Florida, so I don't really know if it would affect us, but it was the idea that, this federal legalization model allowing big companies like that would destroy the mom and pops.
Mm.
Again, it doesn't apply to us as much because we don't have mom and pops. But I think it is a very big concern that anybody who wants to get involved in this industry, has to worry about, because big tobacco, big alcohol, they're all going to come in and just take over once they do, I think.
I'm all in favor of capitalization, and I'm not a socialist per se. But you always have to worry about what happens when we take all the invisible gloves off and let everybody try. Because before this whole thing started, I was constantly getting people calling me up saying, I want to start a little dispensary, just me and my wife and some product over in Florida. When can I start doing that? And I had to tell them, as far as we can tell right now, I don't see it happening in the near future. or the far future or the far, far future. But I recommend that if you get some kind of multi-generational will, you put it in there.
Gary, people call Suncoast Normal all the time, and I always tell them, I said, look, you're going to need about $1 million just to get through the application process, and then you're going to need to buy a significant number of politicians on top of it. So unless you got about $3 to $5 million, getting into the legal market just ain't for you in Florida.
I mean, the last license to change hands, of course, was Harvest. And what Trulieve did was they absorbed the company. They stripped it of every single bit of asset. So every little piece of San Velasco Farms is now officially gone and in part of Trulieve, which I'm certain Kim is really upset about. Because she and Mark Mazel got along so well. But that's another topic altogether. But the thing is, after they spit out this paper license, which was worth nothing else but the paper it was written on, that itself went for $55 million for sale to Planet 13. And they had the capital to give it to them in cash. They didn't have to give it to them in stock.
And we've seen that over and over again in our market. And, everyone keeps on talking about what's the valuation going to change when these new licenses come on board. And I'm like, with legal adult use, it shouldn't change at all. I mean, we're a huge legal adult use market. And, these companies are multi-billion-dollar companies now.
Adam Berman could not wait to get into the market in Florida, but he even said in Forbes magazine, Florida is a limited market with a multitude of medical patients, and it's perfect for our company to come in and thrive and get ready for legalization, essentially. So he laid it all out, kind of like the Bonneville, and he says exactly what he's going to do so we can stop him.
Hey, Mike Cooper with the Cannabis Knights of Florida. Feel free to reach out as to how we can work together. I know you've been posting a lot on here, but Normal is for and supports all adults 21 plus to be able to use cannabis. I know Suncoast is the same, and National Normal as well. And our petition as well is for all adults 21 plus to be able to cultivate and possess and use cannabis. Marijuana.
I want to just go ahead and say it. Like, there's these benchmarks that the cannabis industry has gone through, where legalization and legalization in California, in Colorado, and blah 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 blah. I really think that legalization in Florida and the market opening up in Florida is going to be the next big benchmark. It's the next big thing to happen to the cannabis industry, and it's going to be the last thing. I think that the next thing is going to really be those mushrooms and where everything's going to go.
But the first big thing that's got to happen is we've got to get 87,000 petitions over to Tallahassee so we can get up for the next Supreme Court.
I wish that was only it. We're at 225,000, and everyone has to realize the more we go along, that same legislature continues to make it harder. So it's 225,000 that we need for Supreme Court review now. If you're getting your mailer in the mail, please send it back. We've gotten an incredible response. I probably have at least over 10,000 petitions in my office already in the past week. We're going to need volunteers to come in. I'm in Tampa to help us sort and count them and stuff. But we're really excited, and hopefully we're going to have some more petitions going out in the mail to everybody. But Trulieve, I think, has already got 20,000 or so for us. So we're really kicking butt and hopefully continuing to expand. And everyone sign it and send it in. Everyone counts.
If you're in the Tampa Bay area, sign it and bring it into Chillum or come in.
Are those petitions going to be available at the MMTCs as well?
So right now, we have Trulieve and Rise on board. We are encouraging everyone else to get on board. We're trying to talk to everyone to get them on board. And why aren't they not supporting it? It's for the people, it's for the patients, it's for progress of this plant, and it needs to be done. Even if you as an entity don't support it and are so afraid of home grow because it's going to cut into your bottom line, which it doesn't in any state. They're still making billions. You have to be against the arrest and prosecution of adults 21 plus, actually anyone realistically, but we went with adults 21 plus for being arrested and their lives ruined for cannabis. You can't be against that if you're operating a cannabis establishment now. So you have to get on board with us.
All right, so basically, they're coming in the mail. You have them in your office. We're putting them in the smoke shops. We have them in 2 MMTCs. If your MMTC does not have them, as a customer, you have a right to talk to the guy at the front desk and the guy at the desk where you're actually putting the money down and say, before I give you this money, I'm going to ask you this question. Why aren't the regulated Florida petitions here? Because this is going to make a decision whether I make a sale or not. Now, they might not go for that, but you could at least try.
Yeah, you could be like, I'll make it clear, I still want to buy this weed.
But I'd really rather you support
But
us.
before I do, I want you to support regular Florida.
Yeah,
Interestingly enough, I'm working right now with the state of
that's
Minardi.
right. Hey, I gotta say, if you go to your plug and your plug's house and he doesn't have a stack of blank petitions, your plug is not supporting the movement. So next time you go to your plug, if you go to the legacy market, make sure that he's got a stack of petitions. We want politically minded gangsters out here in the world. I believe Malcolm X said that if the gangster were to wake up to a political mindset, oh, y'all better watch out. And I think that is what we need at this point. Is for so long, everybody who's been a part of the legacy market, who has been struggling as, essentially in rebellion of the status quo and of society. Now is the time where cannabis is no longer counterculture. It is its own culture. It is a mainstream culture. And it's time that we as cannabis users come together and protect one another's civil rights. Normal's been on the front lines doing that since 1970. And, even beyond the movement of legalizing and changing and addressing police reform, at its core, we also need to be there for our patients, hold the corporate sector accountable to producing quality medicine at reasonable prices for each and every patient that needs it.
Now, people often ask me when they come across a petition, they say, should I sign this petition or not? And I say, look, signing the petition itself is not going to make this a law. It will get it on the ballot so the voters can decide. And you have every right to make certain that it at least get to that point so the voters can decide. Yeah. So don't worry about whether it's going to pass or not yet. If you see it, sign it. Let the voters decide, for God's sake.
And to be clear, we support signing all petitions as long as it doesn't say illegalize, make it illegal, put caps on it. As long as it's not against progress, sign all petitions, people. There's no competition between them at all. People can sign them all, we can pass them all, and then that would be great. The legislature can figure out what the most liberal is, what gives us the most protections, because that's what goes in effect. That's what I'm arguing in court, is what the most liberal is. So please stop the hate, bring this community together. It's about love for the plant, and that's it, and freedom for us all.
And what are the
my science is better than your science.
Hey, look, I get my own research and my science is right.
I gotta say, Mike, you just said something really, really important. I think this is a moment where we as a community have to come together. And once we're legalized, we could just have Cannabis Fight Club, and we could sort out the differences on the back end. I like that.
Cannabis Fight Club, though, you can't talk about it.
Whoever lasts the longest makes the rules. That's it.
That's what we should do with Suncoast Normal. We've invited different groups together in the past, but we fucked up. Like, that's what we should do. It's like,
no, they were fucked up.
Each group brings a blunt, and then we pass those blunts around.
Yes, no more sober policy conferences. I got that. Our last policy conference, it was sober. It was at a public library. Yeah, we should.
It was okay, I guess.
No, I thought it was pretty good.
I was the only one that got attacked, but whatever.
As we're getting wrapping up, now, what are the main points to regulate Florida now, and how are they going to pass the Supreme Court muster?
The main points are, number one, everything that's in the ballot title and summary is in the petition. We don't really include anything that's not in there, so I can't imagine. We don't use the word limited because you know what? People can use it unlimited however they want in their own household. That's the bottom line. We're not going to hide the ball. We tried to, put our past one to put some language in there to help the No On 2 campaign type people in there. But the bottom line is this is just a plant. It's freedom for the people. People can cultivate, and it protects people for possessing it and using it. It's just something everyone has to sign, everyone has to provide, and we can get this done. We can vote on it next year, and we could be growing by January of 2023. I mean, that works with me.
All right, so it allows home grow up to what point?
9 plants per adult, 21 plus in the household, a maximum of 18 in the house.
And
even if there's 3. Yes, it does. We never have to deal with that again.
And it doesn't discuss any limitations in regards to the volume that you can possess.
It says you can possess the harvest from your harvest. So you can possess what you have, or if you're out and about, you can possess a reasonable amount indicative of personal use.
Our concentrates included in that. Because right now, concentrate, including vape cartridges, are considered a felony if possessed.
If you don't have a good attorney, that's correct. But there's some.
Are there any?
There's some good legal. Yes, there are. There's some good legal arguments in regards to any 20 grams or less of concentrate should be charged as a misdemeanor. There's a 4th DCA opinion. We're arguing in a few other areas throughout the state as well. But the bottom line is, it's hemp, it's CBD. I don't know if it has THC in it. It's hemp, it's CBD. Shut up.
Hey, so I just want to like put an end to this because we've really gone pretty long. So, Mike, how can people support you? How can people support Mike? How can people support Regulate Florida?
That was my question too.
Support Normal Florida.
Yes. Number one, support all your Normal chapters because Normal has been making it happen forever. They do have a Key West conference coming, and it's a legal conference in Key West in December. It's really fun. Even if you don't go for the legal stuff, it's a great time. You meet a lot of great people, and honestly, it is legal in Key West for that weekend usually.
Yeah, I hear Key West is pretty sedate though, isn't it?
Yeah, everyone is sedated the whole time. So Normal Florida, go onto our webpages, regulateflorida.com, download, sign the petition, go to any True Leave, Rise starting next week. Tons of head shops throughout the state are carrying petitions, including Chillum. Sign them, bring them home to your friends, get them into us as soon as possible. And for me, Minardi for Florida, you can use it anyway, minardiforflorida.com to help support our campaign. We're really excited to be able to do this and really represent the patients and the people with a voice that knows about cannabis, knows what hempcrete is, knows all the benefits of hemp, knows all the benefits of cannabis for people and why people use it and why they want to use it. And really, employee protections are so important to me as well. We have 4 cases throughout the state of Florida right now where we're suing where people fired as a result of it. I do believe Amendment 2 gives people the protection to require employers to accommodate off-site use, and we're going to continue to fight that. One of those is here in Hillsborough County, but just support us, get educated, get out to events as much as possible. Support Normal of Florida, Suncoast Normal, and any organization you can. Sign up for mailing lists, follow us on Facebook so that you know what's going on and you can be there and be part of this movement. We are going to change Florida. We just need your help. Just do it. Don't wait till tomorrow. Do it today.
All right, guys, you got your marching orders. Troops, dismissed.